answering me, so I hope everything is okay with her. I just hit her up this morning. Susan is a dear friend of mine, and she just wrote a book called The Lemonade Diet. And since the topic this month is really about finding, oh, here she is. Hi, Susan. I'm going to unmute everybody. Hi, Susan. I'm having issues unmuting you. Hold on.
I unmuted myself.
Oh, there you go. Hi, Susan. How are you?
Cool. How are you?
I'm doing well. So I just wanted to have this little screenshot up so everybody could kind of see who you are. But I was kind of giving people a little background about you. So Susan is a dear friend of mine. We met about, I think, 10 years ago. And somebody's sending me a chat. Jen was asking me if I started recording, and yes, I did, because I'm famous for doing that, not recording. But anyway, I met Susan about 10 years ago when I started my long distance running journey, and I was kind of looking for some role models, a way to eat better, get better performance. And Susan introduced me to Isogenics, and we've kind of, we can talk about that side of the business in a little bit later, but she's just been such an incredible inspiration to me. And she's launching she has a new book coming out called The Lemonade Diet. And this has been such an amazing journey for her. And since the topic this month was really finding your purpose, I emailed her this morning. I'm like, I know this is really late, but can you come on today and kind of talk about your journey and how you found your purpose? So I'm going to stop the share right now so we can have a bigger picture. There you are.
Oh gosh, you don't want to see me that big. Yikes.
So I actually made you a co-host here. And really, I do want you this big because this is so much about you. So Susan, kind of take us through, a little bit of your story, because I find it fascinating. You were a mom at an early age. You are an ultra runner. You have an organic farm. I mean, there's just so many amazing things that you do. And now you're an author. So, I really want to dive into this concept that so many people pretend to be somebody they're not, and they feel like they need to compare themselves to others, and they never are really happy. And I wish I had figured this out when I was 20. And you probably do too. I haven't read your book yet because there were no sneak peeks, but I'm assuming you talk about this stuff in the book.
Well, here's the thing. I think, thank you so much, Cindy. It's so cool. It's so cool. When I sent you the book cover, I was just showing it. I haven't showed anyone yet, so
Oh, I hope it's okay that I shared.
it's fine. I was like, oh, cool. That's cool. No. So yes, I mean, it's been quite a journey, and life is a journey, and as we all say the same thing, that if we knew then what we know now, but it's never that way, right? Because you
Never.
have to go through everything to learn it all and get where you are, right?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I just hope by my book, I encourage people to do it sooner rather than later, because we get hung up on so many things that are, I don't want to say they're not important, but we let them hang us up. And when we finally get old enough to realize, just let it go, and then we can really start living, right?
Yeah.
But it 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 does. I just hope that people catch on to letting go sooner rather than later.
I totally agree. And that was really kind of a lot of the purpose of my Thursday emails and what has now turned into this Thursday club, because I was sending out all these marketing emails on Thursday. And then one day I just started ranting about life and really letting people into the real me. And the response was amazing. So people are like, oh my God, I wish somebody would, you're okay saying this stuff publicly. I swear in my emails. I've really just learned to be just me. Like I've gotten rid of toxic people in my life. I don't work with clients that don't bring me joy, all of that kind of stuff. And that's what this is all about. My little Thursday club is helping people really, find things that bring them joy and focus on their superpowers. And if you like to raise hedgehogs, then raise hedgehogs or whatever that is, it doesn't matter. So I kind of want some insight into the Lemonade book. Can you give us a sneak peek of some of the stuff that you talk about in it?
Sure. Sure. So basically, the lemonade diet is when life hands you lemons,
Yeah.
make lemonade. And so it's my stories of the lemons that have been handed to me and how I was able to turn it around. And what's really cool is that I've noticed that people, we all have the same stories. We all
Really?
do. Just only the names have changed, right? So we've all lost someone. We've all, feared something. We've all been um maybe we have not been compassionate when we should have been. So it's basically how it's persevering through something. I did an event, gosh, I'm trying to think, it was probably 6 years ago, and it was a weekend event, and it was about letting go of something, and it was amazing to me. It was a small group, there were probably 50 people. And it was amazing to me how many people are at a point in their life now, and they have to let something go that happened when they were 15 or 25. And that one thing has been keeping them stuck until now. And it's nothing that should have kept them stuck. It always amazes me when I see someone who loses a child, or, overcome something. I don't have that tragic, those tragic stories, but it's inspiring to me when someone has a huge something that happens in their life, and then they go on somehow. They set up a foundation. They make lemonade, right? Whereas most of us don't have that huge tragic event, but yet we can't let go.
Hmm.
We can't let go.
So I read Gary John Bishop's book Unfuck Yourself, and sorry if I swear, but it is who I am. So sorry, not sorry.
The name of the book.
Yeah, it is the name of the book. But his thing is, I loved that book. So if people on here, if you haven't read it, you have to. I mean, I talk about it all the time in my emails. But his thing is, it's really not what happens to you in life; it's how you react to it. And we are living the exact life that we want. So change is the only constant, right? Like, if you really are unhappy where you are, you can change and have a different life. Like bad things happen to people all the time. Like you just said, some are horrific, horrific. And some people, like, I panic if I have to have a root canal. To me, that's just like we all have our stories, and it's how you react to those situations and move forward. So that's why I'm so attracted to this book of yours, because it aligns with so much. Because there are things in my life that had me stuck forever, be it a bad relationship, or um you know a bad job. I mean, people just get stuck, and they're so afraid to move on. They're so afraid of the unknown. So can you tell us maybe some insight on some of your personal journey? Like, how did you get unstuck? How did you make the lemonade?
Sure. Well, it was a matter of constantly, being bombarded. I liken it to an episode of Hoarders. It all starts somewhere, right? They
Yep.
they didn't move into this house and have it filled with trash and stuff, but little by little, it built up to the point that it was overwhelming. Excuse my dog's barking.
Is that
Um,
Finn?
built up to the point that it was, it was overwhelming, and that's what we do with our problems. So I lost my dad when I was 16, and it was just a tragic, he was here one minute, gone the next, massive heart attack. And it was a week before I went to high school, my senior year of high school. And um, in that, and I don't talk about this in the book because I do have 7 grandchildren who will all read the book, and I don't. I think it's too much, and it's not that it's not that I'm uncomfortable talking about it. I just didn't want to write about it at this point. But so when I went to high school, I married my English teacher. And I do tell this in the book, but what I don't tell is the fact that it was not the right thing. I mean, I was 17, he was 36. So it was a really, I was a master escape artist, right? I just, instead of facing things, I ran from them. And I realized at some point in my life, you can run, but you cannot hide. And because your problems are going to come along with you. And until you actually sit down and sort through things. And so I don't really know what the turning point was for me, but when I look at all my stories and compile them together, it was really a matter of, it's just one step at a time, right? When you've just got to be aware of all those issues that you have, and where they came from, and sort through it. And I like to say this too: whatever has happened is the past, and the only way we keep it alive is by talking about it, dwelling on it. It's past. Okay, here we are. Let's move on from here. But people can't do that. It's really, really difficult. So there's just different things that I take, people through step by step. And here's, I think in having all these tragedies, or I don't even want to say tragedies, things that happened, I really did discover, like, my purpose was to share, because like you say, when other people can relate to you, or you can relate to them, you're like, oh, I'm just like everyone else,
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with me. It's just, and that was the purpose of my book.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of went through some similar stuff, things that I never told people. Like, I didn't graduate from college. Like, my mom died. She was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer when I was a freshman in college. I'd been there like a week and a half, and I got the phone call, and she was supposed to not make it past 6 months. Ended up living for 5 years, but that really threw me in a loop. And, I think I did my 4 years at UConn, and then, but I mean, I left, and I had to keep coming back home. I had a little brother who was 10, and for years, I never told anybody that I didn't graduate. People just assumed that I did because I finished the 4 years, and I had all of this guilt around it, to the point was, and then finally, when I started talking about it, I realized that no one really cared. First of all, it wasn't a big deal. I was successful despite it. Not that getting an education's a bad thing, but and then, I had a business that failed miserably. I went into business with some business partners that I shouldn't. I lost everything that I owned, and I was like in my late 30s, literally homeless, sleeping, on my sister's couch, no money, a credit score of like 300, divorce. I mean, it was just a shit show. And again, I was sitting on boards of nonprofits raising money for other people, and I couldn't even put, food on my table. Like, I should have been the recipient of that stuff. And yet I didn't tell anybody. Like, I was embarrassed. Like, people were going to think less of me because I went through something like that. Only to realize again later that people were like, oh my God, Cindy, like, stuff like that happened to me. And when you really do start talking about those issues, and, bad marriage, abusive husband, all of that, or mental illness, you do realize that you're not alone. And then it is like this weight that just comes off of you. And then you find out that you, like you with your book, you're helping other people. feel better about them. So that's kind of what I hope I can do, by sharing all of my scary tragedy, bad story, whatever they are. And but I also find that, when you go through those kind of things and you do come out the other end and you find that, um, you found the lemonade, all of those things had a purpose in your life, right? Like, you wouldn't be who you are right now if that didn't happen, right?
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
you just kind of, so instead of looking badly, like, I could, for a long time, I held so much resentment over that first business falling apart. And I mean, part of me still has some issues with it. I'm not going to lie. But if that didn't happen, I wouldn't have started my other company. I wouldn't have met Dave. I mean, all of that stuff would never have happened.
Right, exactly. I say the same thing, even my dad dying so tragically. Um, I wouldn't be where I am right now with my family and have my children. And I think if we just live in the present and stop looking at the past, because, that was the trail we took. And, I think about how I'm a hiker, and sometimes I'll hike up a trail and it kind of sucks. And you'll look and you're like, I'm not going back that way. No way. That it was hard enough to get up here. I'm not going back that way. I'm going to find another way to get back down. And that's really the way I view what things have happened in my life. Yeah, I'm here where I am. I'm not going back because it sucked, but I'm fine and I'm going to find my way. I'm going to find my way. So,
So the other thing that I kind of, when I work with my clients, either it's like, coaching them on a personal level or a business level, I really kind of want to find out, we talk about those things that hold you back, and you are the queen of pushing yourself to try new things. I mean, you're an ultra marathoner, you have an organic farm, you're a grandma, you're a mom, you have your network marketing business, you're an author. And a lot of people won't do those things because of fear of failure. People are going to judge them, right? So, I mean, I just did the Dopey Challenge thing at Disney, and there was and they cut the weather was horrible. It was like the high, almost 100% humidity, almost 90 degrees. I mean, people were dropping like flies. About 5 to 6,000 people got pulled off the course or dropped and ended up in an ambulance. And so they ended up cutting the course short by like a mile and a half. We all finished it. And the Disney races, you stop and take pictures with the characters. So even really good runners will max out the 7-hour time. There was a troll on Instagram that says, you didn't finish because, your time was blah, 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 blah. And you missed out on that last mile, even though my Garmin said 26 point something by the time I was done. And that could have derailed me completely. And then I was like, hell no, like, I did it, you didn't. You know what I mean? So what's your piece of advice for trying new things if you are just scared shitless, like, oh my God, somebody's going to judge me, or I can't do that marathon or climb that mountain or whatever, or write a book?
well, it's funny because that used to really take me out of the game.
Oh yeah.
If someone had an opinion that was negative or unsupportive. And, uh, Cindy, I don't really know what it is. I'm just so over it. It does not bother me. It just doesn't bother me anymore. Um, I'm, I always say if you're not growing, you're dying. So I could either stay small and let all the people around me who knew me as I was feel comfortable, or I could just say, hey, and I don't turn my back on people. I'm like this, link arms with me. If you want to link arms with me, great. But I can't sit and wait. I'm a leader. And when my kids were little, they always, they were too tired to walk, and oh, can you pick me up? And your hands are full, you're on a mission, you're going to the grocery store, whatever. And what I realized that when I turned my back on them and just kept going to what I was going to do, because I could stand there and try to cajole them and get them, come on, guys, let's go. It's okay. And then, but a leader leads. And you know what? My kids, they're still with me today. They got up and started running after me when they realized I wasn't going to stop. So I think it's important when people are critical of something, whatever, to keep going, because their criticism is mostly fear of failure themselves. They think, gosh, if Susan's running a marathon, I can't even get off the couch, to do my 5K, right? And so the criticism is never really about you. It's about someone else. And I think it's important to keep doing what you're doing, because even those people are eventually going to, get up and go. They might not follow you, but they're going to do something. But
Yeah.
I think it's more their own self-talk.
And I think something else to remember is you never know the effect you're going to have on somebody else. Like your words matter. I just wrote my email that I'm going to be sending out on Monday, and I mentioned our little isogenics call we had the other night, where you told me that you send audio messages for people's birthdays on Facebook, and the majority of those people you have no freaking clue who they are. People just connect with you because you have a very broad network, and the power of simple words, you just don't know how you can impact. And many mentors out there don't even know that they're mentors. They just don't. So,
We all are.
yeah, on some level, like what you consider like an ordinary life or a problem, that's somebody else's dream life. You just never know what somebody's going through. So I loved that idea of the just a simple little gesture, and words matter.
It makes a big difference, and it connects people. And like I say, with my book, the important thing for me was for people to realize that I'm really no different than you. And, this is how I navigated through this. I think people feel that that if they let go, they've given up or something, they've moved on. People just love to hang on to things. It's just the human nature of it all.
Hmm.
Um, whether they've had something, it's almost like, when someone dies, and you see this a lot with older people, that if a spouse dies, they'll get married again. 8 months later, they
Hmm.
found someone in a group, and next thing you know, and I think it's wonderful. But a lot of people are critical of that. It's like, how could you? It's because it's important for us to kind of that's what they loved, right? They loved having a relationship with someone, and that's what they want to be in. And I just think it's important for people to, stop letting other people judge how, what's right and what's wrong.
I mean, I can't agree more. And, again, the sort of the topic of this month is sort of understanding, who you really are and what makes you happy, and stop comparing yourself to others. I mean, I work with a lot of business people, and they're afraid to go launch a business because they're afraid they're going to fail, or they're afraid that people are going to judge them, or they won't make any money. And the worst thing to do is to have regret at the end of your life. It's like I I joke with people, like I've gone through my first bucket list, gone through a couple bucket lists, and people like, oh my god, you have the most amazing life ever. And I'm like, yeah, I do have an amazing life, but I've created that life. I've done things that I've sacrificed. Like, you can have anything you want if you really want it badly enough. You may not, because Dave and I live in an RV, we don't spend money on other things, so we can do these things. The same with your life, right? I mean, you choose to have the life that you have, and you've taken steps to get there. So, I mean, I just love that about you, that you're raw and authentic. And if we can just encourage anybody, just one person out there to just sit back and look at in the mirror and really just write down things that they love about themselves, things that make them happy, and things that they want to change. And then every day do, like you said, those little baby steps just to do one thing to get to where they want to go. You didn't
Exactly.
go run an ultra marathon by not running a lot of Litchfield road races and 5Ks and all that other stuff. It takes time. It takes a lot of time.
Absolutely. It's that one step, but it's hard work. And I think what happens, we always talk about the cycle of growth. When we start something, we're so excited, but you're way up here. And then when people will get into your head, and that's immediately because you're doing something new and different or whatever. And when people, um, any little bit of criticism, it's it can take you out of the game. It can take you out of the game. And then and because you're not, like, when I started running, I was like, woohoo, I'm going to do this. Then I started the hard work it took, and I'm like, what am I thinking? This is crazy. I can't run this distance. But if you just keep at it, because it's not the negative self-talk always from other people, it's our own negative self-talk. Yeah, I
Oh
didn't
yeah.
become a runner until I was 40. So I had a lot of negative self-talk, but I kept going. That's the key. If you keep going and don't listen to those little voices that are trying to tell you to go back to bed, you're transforming. And now it's my identity to be a runner. So whatever it is that you do in your life, you start out excited, and it's not easy because it's something new.
Hmm.
And you said all these things before. I thought I wanted to say, and I bet you didn't know it, but I'm a fiddle player too.
Oh, I didn't know that.
But I always love to use the song lyrics and say that. But I started playing again. I played years and years and years ago. I hardly remembered a thing, but I picked it up, and it was funny because I've been talking about it for years. And my son said, "Mom, how much is one anyway? How much is a violin?" I'm like, "A couple $100." He's like, "Why are you still talking about it?" He goes, "Get a violin and play it." I'm like, "You're right." So even me, right? So I got the violin, I started playing, and I was so excited. And then I started taking lessons, and my fingers hurt so badly that I was just like I could feel the strings 2 weeks later. And I thought, I'm not going to be able to write my book and play this violin. My fingers I thought they were damaged. Now my fingers are fine. I got through it, right? And I'm not an amazing, violin player by any means, but I'm transforming. I'm doing the work. I see I'm getting better. I'm playing better. My dog doesn't run away anymore when I play. Uh, so that's the thing that holds us back too, even ourselves, just ourselves, because initially, this was all about me. It wasn't my family saying, "Wow, Mom, you really suck at this." They didn't. It was me going, "Gosh, am I ever going to be able to do this?" So like with anything new, you have to go through this cycle. So it's pretty interesting, and it really goes across the board for anything at all that you attempt.
Yeah, this was a huge, huge learning curve for me, especially when I started running. And Dave used to just tell me all the time, he's like, who gives a shit how fast you run? It has nothing to do with anybody else. And I would be like, oh my God, I'm not a sub 10-minute mile runner. I'm not a runner. I'm too fat to be a runner. I'm too old to be. I mean, it just goes on and on. And it derailed me to the point where I never had fun. And
Hmm.
my turning point was I was at a half marathon in Kentucky, and I'm a back of the packer. So I just went to the back. And the night before, I literally had this complete panic attack meltdown. So Dave and I were having, our dinner, and I'm like, shot of bourbon, please. Like, I just needed something to calm me down. So I get to the back of the pack, and there was a woman, she was probably in her 80s, and she was just all fired up. And meanwhile, I'm just like a nervous wreck because I'm thinking, I'm not going to finish today. Like, what happens? Like, really? And what's the worst thing that happens if you don't finish? They put you on a cart and they take you to the end, right? It's nothing bad. And it's not like I'm, an Olympic marathoner. It's just it's supposed to be for fun. You get right. And the winner's medal is the same as my medal. But anyway, this woman, she's like, I'm 80 something years old. I forget what it was. And she's like, I don't care if I come in last. I'm just happy that I woke up this morning, can breathe, and I can do this damn thing. And I'm out here and it's the fresh air. And I was like, oh my God. Like, here I am in my 50s, 30 something years younger, and I'm having a panic attack. I had trained for it, but I'd had some injuries and, all that stuff that happens. And the trainings are always 10 times worse than the race. And I ended up running it. It was my slowest half marathon pace, but it was my favorite race ever. Because when I got I didn't care. Like, I had so much fun on that race because I stopped to talk to people and I high-fived all the kids on the side and I finished it. We had a great time, but that was so huge for me. And of course, Dave, when I told him the story, he's like, well, I've sort of been telling you that for 5 years. But sometimes you just have to get that smack in the face. And it's that moment that you're like, the self-limiting beliefs prevented me from just enjoying this, which was so
Exactly.
sad.
It's all ourselves, right? It's
It
all
is.
ourselves, or worrying about how people are going to judge us. And when I first started racing, I felt the same way. I had to be faster. And if I did the race in this time last year, now I have to be even better this year, and better and better and better. And finally, the Litchfield Road Race, I stopped running it. I haven't run it in years, and not due to injury or anything other than the fact that it just felt like everybody was looking to see where you landed, and that's not what I want. I would rather run an untimed race in the middle of the woods and just really enjoy myself.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's the racing community does have a lot of pressure to get, your personal records and qualify for Boston, and it's just all this crap. I remember, speaking of, being self-judgy and holding back, I remember my first half marathon I did when I got all the race pics and I had my hands up in the air and I was like, "Oh, look at my flabby arms." Like, and I wasn't going to post my pictures. And I'm like, that is just so stupid, right? It's so stupid. The things that, and now I just don't care. I think like you, and maybe it's, we get to a certain age, and I hope my kids get to this point, in their 20s and early 30s where they can just let go and enjoy life. If they want to go be a bartender on a beach, go be a bartender on the beach. You want to, I mean, this is again why I love your son John's story. He kind of just, he gets it at 25. He went off and lived in Italy, lived in, where else was he? In California. Now he's in New York, living his best life. And it's his life. Like, he doesn't care, it seems, like what anybody else thinks. Like, that's an amazing point to get to in your life. Amazing.
Right. And most people don't get there because of everything that's happened along the way. It holds them back, but it's not even real. It's not even real.
It's not even real. You're so incredibly right. So, I mean, any other words of wisdom, Susan, about if there's somebody that's watching this video and, you know, they they're afraid to go write that book, or they're afraid to start dating again, or they're afraid to do anything, what would you tell them?
Well, I was at an event, John Maxwell, who is an amazing
Yeah.
leader, and he's written over 100 books. So I was at a very exclusive event. I think there were 60 of us there. And I have a picture of John sat at our breakfast table and had breakfast with us. Then he sat in front of the room and he was doing a Q&A for everyone. And one of the gals asked him, she said, "I want to write a book. What do you suggest? Give me some advice." And he said, "Start writing." That's it. Start writing. And most of us will tell ourselves stories, why we can't, why we shouldn't, why we're not good enough, who am I to write a book? And that was a big moment for me as well, because this was last summer and I was really in the middle of writing my book. And there were days that I thought, oh gosh, this is just not right, or, can I do this? It it really was a matter, I just kept at it. I
You just
kept
kept
at
writing.
it. So I wanted to write the book, right? I was up here. I was so excited. And then as I'm doing it, all the questions, that were coming into my head, all the negative things. And it was no one being negative against me. Like, what do you mean you're writing a book? Everyone was telling me, go for it. I love your stories, do it. But it was really difficult. And then as I kept going, and my son writing his book at the same time was very helpful, because, and the reason it was helpful is because he was going through the same deception that I was. So it made me realize, I was encouraging him. I'm like, you're fine. And it made me realize that the same thing was happening, right? With him. So I think that, look around and realize we're all doing the same thing. And, but we're really hard on ourselves. So just lighten up a little bit and do it until, if something feels uncomfortable, you're doing the right thing.
Right.
You're doing the right thing.
Well, Susan, your book comes out in April, correct?
April. Yeah.
And where can people find it?
It will be on Amazon, and I'm hustling to get it into some bookstores. So we'll see. It will be available to be in bookstores, but it's such a process. I'm hopeful it will be there, but everyone buys their books on Amazon anyway.
Yeah.
So
Now, did
yeah.
you use a writing coach?
No, I didn't. I had an editor, and my book is being proofread right now, but no, I really didn't. I didn't.
It's an amazing accomplishment. And this is on my list. And I think another reason you've inspired me, because I think I overthink it, right? I know I overthink it.
Start writing.
People say, like, Cindy, you need to write a book. You need to write a book. And I've started it a few times, and then it got hard. Or I'm like, okay, what do I write next? Or nobody's going to want to read this. And I need to just keep writing.
That negative. Yeah.
I'm in that
You're so
spot right now.
excited, and then you get all, and it's mostly us telling ourselves these things, because if you listen to me, I would be like, Cindy, just go for it. And people are telling you, but it's so powerful. So we really have to get out of our own way.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So that's kind of all I have for today. I thank you so much at the last minute for joining me for this, because I hope, well, your story is just amazing. Can't wait to read the book. And I need to bring John on here, your son. Or you guys can both come on my podcast as well, and we can help plug your book and share it. I actually have a screen that I'll put up that has all your contact information. I'll share it when we wrap it up. But thank you,
Awesome.
Susan. Have an
Thank
amazing
you.
day.
Thanks for having me, Cindy.
You're very welcome. All right, I'm
Have
going
a
to
great
share, you too. I'm going to share my screen now so everybody can kind of see. Here's Susan's contact information. So her website is coming soon, but I'll put it out there. And I'm recording this so you can, it'll be in the member section of the Thursday Club, and I'll email it out to everybody so they have it. And Susan, I'll send you a copy of it too. If you want to use it for anything, you're more than welcome to.
Awesome. Thank you, Cindy.
You're welcome.
Everyone have a great day.